Ah, 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 very good explanation. Uh, anyway, let me let this I can see it. There we talk about developing a software that doesn't require me to input everything, man. Anyway, uh, test. I didn't even check how it sounds. Maybe I should have tried that. Maybe. Maybe. But it's no time for maybes. Um, anyway, good good evening, good morning, good night also. Today we are trying for what purpose exactly? Nice question. Very indeed a very good choice of a thing to ask. There are like many things to say, so I don't I don't really have any particular choice. I I just have stuff. That's how it works lately. So yeah, we will just accept that and move on. Anyway, starting, I have been looking looking around. I think something funny of let's say it like this: the possibility of being a human being itself, having freedom of choice, is something sometimes more surprising than what we would expect. Not because truly freedom of choice is bad in a certain way. We could even try to have this whole argument about how no human really can exert their freedom even to the last detail. Everything can be traced back to certain parts of the brain in which every kind of choice has already been decided before you even take them. So, by conclusion, we don't have free will. Whatever. We are not here for that. So, I I have intentions not to talk about that at least today. Or yeah, out of my own volition, I guess would be a more correct way to say it. I just have been thinking about it, and it's funny. Always, the possibility of doing stuff is always present. We can always choose to do something. We can always try to do things. It's just complicated to be capable of properly picking anything. It's the wonderful thing about not acting is that sort of flavor that only comes with having every single option in your hand. As in, despite me not actually taking any choice, I at any moment can pick any direction that I want with what I am doing. So I see that it's interesting to talk with people how, in many ways, it isn't. I wish it was just reductible, I guess. Something that we can just see or define as commitment or something like that, but I don't I don't believe it's a proper term to use in cases like this one because it isn't about oh yeah I am just committing to something. I instead of not committing to anything, I am a sort of free spirit. I don't think about it in that way. I see it more from the perspective of let's say it's going to be complicated, but what that isn't complicated can be enjoyed. So, by having all the world open to me, despite not actually going anywhere on it, just knowing that I could always move myself onto one place allows me to feel the satisfaction of knowing that I could experience many things, let's say. It's there are certain types of language that I could use to describe it, I guess. It's the easiest form of description that always fits within these ideas and whatnot. How it works in this very self-pleasing way, but I don't think it is just a self-pleasing. It's more related to a form of protection from dealing with the world. If I don't really take any choice, I can always believe that whatever happened was the best thing to happen, and whatever I can still choose, even if I am not going to choose anything because it's by itself complicated to do that, I can find some degree of happiness in knowing that I could try to do it and I could maybe even more achieve what I have. There is this something that I always like to bring up is this awareness about how a bad idea, I I will say most of the time, a bad idea is to comment what you are working on to other people. Just the degree of validation that you get from other people, knowing that you're trying something new, allows you to lose not just motivation, interest in what you are doing. Because once you get, even if you are no, if you are not actually achieving what you want, just by saying that you are trying something and getting positive reinforcement in a certain way, you start believing that it's already almost something that you can get. It's there is this different issue of having too big of a dream will make you also drop it because you will slowly realize that what you want is just impossible to achieve. And even if you're not consciously thinking about it, the level of subconscious processes that are related to, let's say, the constant drilling of how this one thing might not ever work at all because it's not an issue that we can solve, let's say. You're trying to, I don't know, uh, an expert in medicine, a scientist, says, I want to cure cancer from the whole existence. Besides, arguments of maybe it could be possible nowadays. Besides all of that stuff, reality dictates that if they believe it too much, if they believe that they have a need to do it, if what they encounter in reality shows that they have no possibility of achieving that, no matter how much you say consciously that you want to make it happen, it won't really alter the result of you at some point giving up because there is still systems inside of us, defensive mechanisms, we could call them, of I am realizing that my time is being spent on something that will get nowhere. On one hand, is that, as I mentioned before, is the combination of this realization of the impossible with this other activity of getting validation from others. It's, I will say it's the most complex form of self validation that happens because it is the one that we get from ourselves. Something uh, dangerous, yeah, but something that I consider honestly as a reality is having so much trust in oneself allows for this degree of, okay, I do not actually need to do anything. I do not actually need to try and accomplish what I say that I want to it. I might as well allow myself to skip over things, to not try, to not be there, to not spend hours of my day, to not present myself to what I want to get. Because I might as well be completely capable of accomplishing what I want anytime that I want it. Um, it's probably something that comes from overconfidence. I guess that's the best name that we can give it. Or just, I would even say in a moderate degree of confidence will make you incapable of realizing that indeed you shouldn't be thinking so much about doing things, but actually participating in the things that you want to get. So in this case, it's just the same thing, the very same thing of, yeah, you know what? In days like this one, I get to believe that I can do all the things that I want. I can spend my whole day accomplishing things. And there are so many things that I could accomplish that I consciously say that the subconscious text is just, since there are so many things to do, it's literally impossible to do all of them. And since I cannot really commit consciously to anything, why not just spend it? Why not just not do anything? Why not just not? This is a, in this case particularly, I will say this is a dangerous word. I am not talking about giving up. It's something funny. I see it as a, perhaps indeed as a sort of lie that we can tell ourselves how we do not need to give up. We can keep always trying. Think of it as this depiction that we like to make about the human spirit and the modern human and how we are always exploited. From that perspective, we always like to talk about our tiredness. Um, you, because you are tired, you shouldn't ever consider giving up. You just take it slowly. You just take breaks from getting what you want. You just extend the time that you will spend trying to accomplish the things that you say you want to become better at, or reaching the goals that will require more than anything your actions, and not unavoidably. As a sort of tiny clarification, there are unavoidably things that fall into the category of, okay, but no matter how much I wish for it, I cannot make time itself go faster, and I cannot make other people gain all the awareness that they need to have about what I am trying to make, and I cannot out of nowhere create a completely successful business just because I am thinking about it. Not that it's just irrational, it's literally impossible. Besides, eh, very few humans who can somehow accomplish getting all the publicity that they want or whatever. I cannot really make things happen in that direction. So that handful of situations unavoidably needs time. But everything else is just under the category of, oh yeah, I just need to exert myself to a degree to which I might come back tomorrow and I might not feel nice at all. I might not have any interest in doing anything else after having spent all of my energy on this one thing that I can barely say I want. I can express it in words. I can go on and on and on about how interested I am in getting certain things, in finding myself having certain benefits, in having accomplished certain goals, having gotten the the good things after having used the effort that required to be used to get said thing. I I can say all of that, but I don't really want to do that. It's too much of a discomforting confrontation with the world. I can stay rather in the pleasure of having failed, let's say. That's where it becomes, I will express it as an issue. That's where it unavoidably has to deal more with the negative aspects of, yeah, I everybody could accomplish wonderful things, but we we do not really like to talk about how even what seems positive ideas can be hurtful in some ways. That's, I mean, that's to some degree what I have been trying to talk about for so long. It's complicated to bring awareness out what is nice and what is um, already established and validated through the societal speeches and whatnot. Not because it, it it's something that isn't bad. Attacking something that is wrong in itself is possible. The issue is once it gains validity, it becomes complicated to properly address it in a way in which it means anything. I mean, something funny that I like seeing is how there are still some countries that allow, for example, uh, this is perhaps incredibly political, but if I don't have an example, I am going to fucking lose it because talking in so many abstract is unnecessary. There are so many countries that still have rules and laws that allow you to experience and to, in some cases, even enforce, or however we wanna call it, marriage with what we would consider underage people, because they have different ways of measuring that. And even if it were, and even if it is right now possible for us to bring up what is an obvious back, what the fuck, bad reality of that society, what we are doing is not really accomplishing anything because we are not trying to change it. It's just a degree of self validation that allows you to rest at night a little bit better. This, wow, wonderful realization. I am not doing bad things. I am not killing human beings like murderers out there. My life is solved because I am a civilian that can follow the rules. No, sadly, that's not really accomplishing much. To some level, that's a funny thing that we cannot really discuss in certain ways is how accomplishing things, getting to see things come to reality, to fruition, however you say it, isn't just because everybody can accomplish them, but also due to how we are interested in getting things going. to some degree, laws are not something that, oh wow, we accomplish. Laws are something basic. They are in many ways shaped to be something that even the most. Is there a way to say it without sounding discriminatory? An active, I guess. That might be a correct word. An active human being can follow all the laws to some degree, allowing the most an active human being to be capable of fulfilling them. It's not a matter of, oh wow, I should feel prideful because I can follow the laws that I have around my life, my country, my particular state or city or whatever, or community or whatever. No, the funny thing still is rules themselves are not that complicated. So it's a matter of just the the ego inflating itself when it comes to that. There is something along the lines of the Dunning-Kruger effect, I will say, on or I don't remember exactly which one it is. It's one of the many biases that exist. The one in which you can attribute to other people causes related directly to themselves when it comes to failure. But if it has to do with oneself, it becomes then an issue of other influencing factors. We are not truly incapable of following rules because we just don't understand how we need to follow them. We are incapable of following rules because somehow we are being impeded of following them, or we were never told of them, so we didn't know what we had to do, or we had issues before, and that day we forgot exactly one of those particular rules, and blah blah blah. The very same thing goes here. It's somehow reducing what everyone else is, and assuming that, oh wow, yeah, I can follow rules because I am such a good human being. I can follow what is being told to me by other people because I am such a clever person. No, man, not really. In reality, it's still the same thing. Everybody can follow rules because we make them easy enough for societies to follow them. The moment in which we try to impose very strict that rules, impositions, new amendments to how communities should work or function, we get revolts, and we can't really make such changes. The rules that we have are easily followable by most people, and those who do not can at least just make demands to make changes to those things so that then finally all of us can go back to the original idea of being happy, of following the guidelines of society, I guess. And I don't know, I don't think it's something bad. It's just in that same sense, we like to over worry about many of these things when in reality it doesn't really work like that. I wouldn't say it works like that. And it just falls onto the same. Holy shit. It falls onto the same categories as always. I I do not think it's something related at all with the human has to decide. So, as the human has many rules, we feel nice with being capable of deciding. It's just mm, to some degree, it's better to not assume that we need to decide or that we need to take any choice. Choosing is too much of doing with anything. Choosing is too much of a compromise to try and do it. Also, before I keep going for I don't know how long. Sorry, hello Andy. I even did the Bob. Why didn't I say hello before? Good question. But it's just not complicated in a level of oh wow, this does not make sense at all. It's just an annoying thing to have to deal with. But whenever I choose something, I am losing all the other possibilities. That's the main issue of the commitment that exists within being. I cannot really experience everything or have the sensation, the illusion basically, that I can experience everything that I want if I choose something. I might be this. There is something that we like to talk about um, in terms of comparisons. Also, good night, good evening, welcome to salary. Man, can I ask why do you have a C at the end of your name? Yeah, welcome. Uh, you feel lost? How can philosophy help you? You what? I you're uh, I wouldn't trust myself with that, but I mean that's like a in reality. Don't we all feel lost? Even those who have a sense of security to a degree could probably be convinced that they might also be in the wrong. So, philosophy, short answer is it can help you with realizing that sometimes even being lost is not that bad. But it depends. I mean, there are many different paths that you can take. You can go into stuff like what Camus talks about, what Albert Camus mentions and such, and find yourself. No, yeah, yeah. But I mean, it's not still a, a, a question that has or needs to be answered or that is outright impossible to answer. So it's just in reality it mostly depends really on what you find to be the most quote unquote correct thing with what you think. If you can identify yourself with stuff like the absurd and start like from all of that nihilism, and from nihilism you can also go into other alignments similar to what is I, I might be a little bit incorrect, but I think it's also sadism and I love those people in general of Soviet eras and all the Europe, existentialism, whatever you want to choose basically. But the reality is you will align yourself with something. What would you consider to find oneself? To find what you vibe with the most. That's just finding yourself. You are we are have to deal with questions in life. We have to deal with things. Find the thing that you can use the best to defend yourself against the unending stream of questions that you have, the unending doubts that the world makes you realize exist out there. Like, okay, Which system will allow me to explain why are we born into this? Why do we die? Where do we go when we die? What happens if we die? What happens to our children? What happens to the people that I like? What should happen to the people that I don't like? What should be a society that I should try to be aiming towards? All of those things get explained once you, quote unquote, find yourself. What I mean, that's also sort of the implicit there. You find also what you care about. Maybe you don't give a fuck about, oh, wow, yeah, society. Uh, it's a little bit, yeah, sad, but maybe you're just self-centered and that's it. You found yourself there. You find your satisfaction in just having the most basic needs of you met and nothing else. And I don't know. It's, I wouldn't say being happy and nothing else. Finding yourself is, that's unavoidably the reality. It requires a little bit of suffering, like everything, but I don't know. I wouldn't describe it as something unpleasant itself, even if the process might be complicated. But yeah, the same thing as you can find yourself in anything. You can find it that's why we are the way in which we are. You can find it in reading, you can find it in playing things, you can find it in playing a certain role, a certain character, going for a certain profession, doing a certain thing, helping the world in a certain way. All of those things could help you define yourself. But yeah, I don't know. It's not that bad, I guess. It's just the question of, I wouldn't say that's what sort of I have been trying to talk about. I wouldn't say believing that you can get there. I would constantly enough doubt that's my recommendation. Never believe that you can get there, but always strive to get there. Mm. No issue, no issue, no issue. It's never bad. Never think about it like this. Maybe not the best idea because individualities, but at least in my experience, if I don't alright tell the person, what the fuck are you asking? Shut the fuck up. No, it's literally because I see how I can respond to it. So don't feel bad about asking. It's nice. It's better to answer something than to deal with the questions that I might pose to myself here. So it's easier in that sense. Don't worry. Anyway, what I was trying to say is, in regards to all of those things, it's better to always doubt. Never, not be pessimist and say, oh no, I will never accomplish it, but always try to see if you can. Do not assume that you will. In the assumptions that you make, sometimes you end up giving up the power that you have over the things that you get to do or not. So please don't do that. But at least always try to see how much you can accomplish in terms of life in general. That's the, I guess, the issue of, to some degree, I would even say, we like to talk so much about consciousness and being aware of what we are doing, and to some degree, this predilection for positivity makes you believe that you need to be completely sure. And in the end, they still have many similar speeches to what can be converted into very dangerous things like, oh yeah, and you should always have a plan and a fallback plan and many things that should allow you to know how you can get successful at this one particular goal and achieve what you want and be happy and what I was saying, find yourself in life and whatever. Yeah, we can say that, but the reality is, you might just be playing against yourself at some point. You might start to worry that everything that you have already created won't really help you enough. with what you wanted to achieve. Maybe the goal that you set was incredibly high, so you will never be ready to deal with it. So you need to keep preparing and preparing and preparing and trying to collect more things. That's something that I remember I read a little while ago, was this thing of, oh yeah, I was a thinker of the world, and it wasn't until the pandemic that I had to deal with being a grown-up person. Out of nowhere, I had to deal with all of these responsibilities, and I was being confronted by a completely new world of things. I wasn't ready at all because the ideas that I had weren't aligned with what I was being forced to experience. And not in a negative way, but I just had to deal with that unavoidably. And the reality is, life is incredibly uncertain. You're just losing to some degree the sight of everything might go out of the window tomorrow. That's we like to live in certainty. Something funny is we never know with a complete 100% accuracy fundamental things about reality as we know it today. We never know if tomorrow we get to wake up. Something like the Third World War hasn't happened. We don't know those things. Certainty becomes so much of a necessity because we believe that it is to be, that it needs to be that way, not because it really is a necessity in itself. It is the speech that we have about it, the way of conceptualizing certainty that we have made it be the way it is. But there is that's that's the funny thing about reading stuff. You find out that yeah, the civilizations that were the most certain about the stuff were the ones that had the least enjoyment. This whole concept of oh yeah, life can be predictable and everything can be understandable. That's where you see the most pain existing. We can lie all that we want about oh yeah, certainty and how it works and being capable of choosing a proper destiny and aligning ourselves with what fits our dreams the best. But if all of that is going to drive us to just a sad ending in which, oh, wow, repetition after fucking repetition, nothing else. Wonderful. We failed. But at least we get to deal with the awareness that we failed once we got there and not right now. That's the funny thing of yeah, I can make up as many scenarios as I want about things. I can also avoid making up the negative conclusions that might as well be unavoidable. I might want many things. What will I have to do after I got what I wanted? I don't have to think about that. I can think about how many things I want. I don't need to think about what I will do after having all the things that I say I wish to have in my hands or all the dreams that I can see. I don't need to be that person. That's something, this idea of that's something that the future me will have to deal with is pretty much the best explanation for all of that in this case. So yeah, I don't know. It's just in that sense it's complicated, I guess. Also, guys, give me the epilepsy. Anyway, welcome, guys. Thank you very much for the ride. I hope you had a nice stream. I think I saw the title. I at least I saw the title. Sorry, I saw the title, so I'm pretty sure it is not. Sorry, you're from a different place of the world, so maybe it is your birthday already. Maybe it isn't. If we have similar time zones, There are still like 3 minutes. Yeah. I, 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 I hope you had a nice time. Also, sorry, because I didn't say it. Welcome, brothers. I hope everybody's having a good night. If you have to raid and what is it? Raid and leave, there is no issue. You already know that whole speech. Anyway, I hope you had a nice day, and if it is your birthday or not, happy birthday. I don't know. Also, happy Father's Day. You know, that's true. At least we have like five minutes, but I am hard. You are hard. You have. But yeah. Anyway, let me do my work. I have to write slash. Ah no, I have to write it here. I don't have the browser open. Let me see. So I don't know what that. It isn't Saturday for me, but usually can call me. What the fuck are you talking about? Uh, no, I mean if you're into that, that's good for you, man. But um, guys, okay. You showcase, okay. Then I will have to watch that. I will have to watch that. Tuesday in 2 days. We are so back. Yeah. I will try to watch it then. Please, don't fucking take it down. Thank you very much. Don't take the vote down. Uh, so yeah, I will try to watch it. Also, uh, Quinn, Leo, sorry for not saying anything. Welcome. Hi. But yeah, that's what I saw. I knew it was gonna be your birthday at some point, but I don't know. I saw that there was something, I don't know, the last stream before my birthday. Maybe it was in a month. Maybe you were going to take a whole month break before your birthday. Who knows? Such is life. But yeah, I will make my best to watch that. Watching people is hard, you know. Having yeah, I mean, most people that I know that are around our age, let's say, has to take time because most of us go to get any sort of education. So we sadly, in these times, we have to take breaks. We get the pleasure of later on having also breaks from school, so that's a lot better. But the reality is most of the time we end up needing to take breaks just to do our careers or not just careers, getting an education of any sort, finishing high school for some people even. So that's life. There is nothing we can do about that. And also the unpredictable negative events that might happen. That is also. Don't worry. We love them. We they are so. Don't worry. Don't worry. Uh, I I made my I tried my hardest to make sure that it looks like fucking shit. It's so good. I Why don't people do it? Because you're antagonizing the one who has to use the chat. Not really. I can understand what you're writing, but we can all say that. We can all agree it's better to just oh wow, this looks so weird, man. Why are we doing it? Is this just a bit? No, it isn't. But don't worry. Anyway, uh, I was what I was trying to say something probably. Uh, Here, what was happening is something wonderful called speaking. I was, as you can guess, I don't. I mean, maybe you can't guess. So I don't really have the possibility of doing anything else. A quick explanation. So we are here, literally just chatting because there is nothing else to do. Um, Otherwise, my PC fucking explodes. That's the best way to say it. So yeah, I was talking. What we were talking about? Great question. Being responsible, committing, I guess, doing things, and that's the best way to say it. Doing, living life. You know that thing called living life. That has been the point of this. Living life. That's the issue today. Having to live, having to be a person is complicated. So that's the point. That's sort of the good thing to get angry about. We can always say, "Oh yeah, living life is hard." Not really. I mean, you find something that you like, you do it, and that's it. You get fulfillment from doing what you have found. You're interested in that's it. The issue is truly just allowing yourself to be honest with yourself, to truly find what you want, be capable of accepting that there might not be something else besides that, or there is no need to truly go out there and experience every single day something new until you can find what you have decided is the most interesting thing to do in life. No, maybe I don't know, certainty, some level of certainty. Certainty, not in everything is good, but at the very least, I get to know what I like. I can do that. That's it. I don't have to live in the complete unknown world of what the fuck do I want to do with my life. Follow something. Find what you like, you follow that. That's it. Simple, simple solution. Oh yeah, such a great explanation. It doesn't fucking mean anything because I don't know what I want. That's why the world is open. That's why we get to deal things, deal with things, do things. To some degree, I mean, yeah, deal things to other people. Uh, I don't know. It's just like that, but whatever. Trying to be, I don't know. Trying to be is complicated in many ways. It's just we also don't really need to feel like there is a need to be in any way if not being seems to be more comfortable. That's part of what I was trying to say before. Choosing anything is complicated. Choosing any one thing is hard just because you have to deal with accepting that what you chose is the thing that you truly want, and everything else becomes impossible to get. Committing to a choice is hard. That's basic idea. Living your life is not so easy because you have to live it. You don't get to live all the other lives that you could experience if you did them. You have to live the one that you say you want to have. So it makes to some degree sense that it's hard to do, that it's complicated, not really, not because it truly is impossible to accomplish, but rather because awareness about ourselves is a complicated thing, let's say. Knowing what we want to do is easy enough, but knowing why you want to do it and understanding that many days it will not be the choice that you truly want to do, but still choosing what you say the ones you wanted to get compared to everything else, that's a lot harder. I have an example, maybe not the best example, but choosing to continue loving scenario. We are somebody who has 60, 70 years. We are incredibly old compared to all of us here, since nobody here is 70. So you're 70. You have the love of your life, who is also 70. Both of you have already grown old. And there is also something funny called physical attraction. That thing died already because unavoidably people grow older. People don't look as nice as they did in their 20s when they have 70. So you have every single day to deal with. Okay, will I have to just continue loving the person that I said I love for so long? Or will I try to go for something else out there? That's the sort of quote unquote complicated decision. To some degree, you know that you love it, you know that you want to continue having these things that you have found to be so useful in your life. It's another fucking person. You know that you have built your life around the other person, and you know that how beautiful it will be to also show them how much you still love them every single day, if it were possible for you. So you don't even need to ask yourself why you're choosing this instead of everything else. That's the issue with having a life. Having something that you say you like, finding it and knowing that it is something that you truly want to have. Otherwise, it's just an easy matter of wow, yeah. We we have everything ahead of us, in front of us, all the possibilities given to us. But which one are we actually taking is not so easy to say, not so easy to predict, not even for oneself, because whichever way we go, still truly be what we want to have. And to some degree, that's I would probably say a downside of this modern world. There are so many wonderful possibilities that everything seems better than the other thing once you start to analyze it. All life has its good sides now. There is no downside to almost anything, or unavoidably, if there are, even those downsides can't compare to how many good things reside in committing to whatever. So, who knows? What I can say right now is I need to take a break. Word, Q word, special word, idle meeting. I have to take one of those. So yeah, give me like 1 second. Not really 1 second, but give me time. I have to go do something. After that, after the commercial break, we are going to be back with more just chatting. Yeah. Anyways, such is life. C'est la vie. We interrupt your dose of silence with the announcement that we are back. Anyway, I don't say anyway, I say anyways. Why? No idea. Tradition is Eva, what's up, gang? Sorry, sorry. It's what's good, knowing that comedy isn't for everyone. So yeah, uh, we're not here to make jokes because we might hurt somebody's sensibilities, and that's the last thing we want, right? So whatever. Also, brother, can you show me if the microphone is working? I need to know that. I don't want to out of nowhere. One day, I will not know if it is working or not. It will have fucking died out of nowhere, and I will be like, wow, it's so over. Just because Twitch decided to not tell me. Anyway, there we go. And now I can see. Sorry. Sorry for losing it for 1 second. I was trying to say good morning. Live being. What does it mean? I have something funny. I have a title. Does it mean anything? Not today. It's just Anima, the soul, basically. All different representations of the same word. And I guess even to something even more probably Nickebait, since the first word is anime, and I don't know, the most anime thing that exists here are the many 70p mods that have anime in some way. Anything else is not anime at all, so it's so fucking over. What about, why don't we a flyer of I don't know, my ocean? That would be anime enough. Are Vtuber's anime? Is this anime? Certainly this isn't. This is not in any ways animated. This is radio with an excuse of visuals. But who knows? That's how things work around here. Anyway, continuing before losing it even more. Continuing, I was saying before, yeah, decisions, life, being, doing, acting, playing roles, taking the lead of being, I guess. All of that is to some degree complicated, and that's, I don't think by itself bad. I just, if I had to hate on anything, is how much we like to say that discomfort is bad by itself. I don't know, man. I like very much when I am being probably to a proper enough measure. That's the issue. Not, it's not a completely honest statement of, oh wow, yeah, I want to be challenged by what I see or what I read or whatever. To some degree, yeah, but to another, I have to deal with something like that, and I will probably fucking drop it. What are you talking about? I have to be aware of what I am consuming. I have to do my best to see if what I am consuming is good enough. I have to deal with all of that. Maybe not, man. But we are not really here in terms of the assignment because we like to think about all of that. It's just better ways of being, to be less worried about the weight of our actions, but rather everything else, you know? If I can choose the poison that I will take, let's say, if kind of tracing back to what I mentioned before, yeah, there are many ways in which you can align yourself with the world, in which you can align yourself with the utmost level philosophy. Is I remember hearing something funny, interviewing normal people on what philosophy means. Most people don't have the philosopher's conception of philosophy. Philosophy as a normal day word is just the way in which you structure yourself around the world. Your own life philosophy, that sort of philosophy, the philosophy that you follow to make sense of what being is. And that's good enough to some level. The issue is believing that we are right or that we need to be right even more compared to other people. Believing that we need to be here saying things that must be taken as absolutely correct statements. Everything can be wrong. Everyone can to some degree fail in anything. And that's why it's wonderful to me, because we get to see how many things can go in that sense badly and still function. Because that's if you cannot embrace why things fail, you cannot embrace that life itself has so many imperfections and it still is what we get to say is beautiful, that it's no wonder in many ways we can get to fall in love with being alive. It's not a complicated thing to get when you can see it in the light of yeah, I can sit in comfort with the disgusting things that this world has to offer to me. After all, fighting so much what is the unavoidable realities of being. I mean, there is this thing that I like. It's not the illness that kills you, it's the worries that you have due to your illnesses that kill you in many ways. Not because the illness isn't something terminal, the sicknesses that you experience are not real, but rather because it gets worse once we observe them. There is this whole, in a completely different field, um, the observers. I cannot really remember what's the word. The observer's paradox, I think it is, when results change, varying on depending on who is observing. In in the world of physics, many things, mostly at the fundamental levels, are completely different to what they are normally when unobserved, because you are forcing them to be a certain way. In this case, you are not really forcing them to be random stuff. The predispositions that we get to have about life make them act in such a way that we believe we are right, or we are needing to be right about what we say, what we see, what we experience. And that makes it incredibly worse. Sometimes the bad things that happen, even if they are bad by default, not saying that they weren't bad, but even if they are bad, they are not the end of life itself. I I think I would assume the best way to understand that is observing other people who also have to deal with many adversities, and understanding how the human being can, in many ways, overcome adversities, but also that's still, all of this still has the same aura that I was talking about before. Certainty is the killer of possibilities, of joy itself. Being certain that you will get what you want will only make you suffer even more once you have to deal with the reality of, yeah, and my assumptions were not the correct ones. Not saying that it is necessary then to assume the complete opposite, just assume that everything might be a reality. Maybe it happens, maybe it doesn't, maybe it gets to be in between, maybe it doesn't get to be as good or as bad. Maybe just have to see what it is in any direction, and that's enough. And that's a lot less of a difficult task, of a difficult possibility, reality, world, compared to taking any choice, believing in any faith itself. Però what lacks so much in I wouldn't say it like this, what lacks so much in this consciousness of the absurd, that is, the sobriety of being aware about how life possesses in many ways no proper intrinsic meaning. We can only define it through the experiences that we get to have in life itself, is the lack of, okay, and also the answers that I can give to my actions, that the answers that I can boys as truths for what I am doing in this life might also be wrong. So I shouldn't trust so much myself in many ways. I shouldn't be so secure about what I say, what I expect, what I want, what I say that needs to be to happen, to be seen, to be gained, to be done. Anything of that is uncertain. Uncertainty lies above everything else. That's to a certain degree. The only maxim is uncertainty is the only certain thing that we have about being. Besides the other stuff that is more related to not being, that is the only second truth. Yeah, everybody might die, but that doesn't really mean that also it is the only thing that we should be worrying about. Ah, anyway, completely anyway. I guess I wanted to say all of that to just also say now I will drink some water. I am thirsty, so yeah, I should I should drink it instead of just looking at the water. But uh, such is life, I guess. It's that's yeah. About being honest, that's something complicated to talk about. I guess that's the issue. Probably what I have left behind. Trying to connect it with what I said before, and to not make it such a fucking random out of nowhere mention. Uh, there is something wonderful happening always in this concept about being depressed. I remember hearing what was at the moment, or what I saw. I don't really know. Maybe it makes sense, maybe it doesn't. Depression, a good expression about what depression is sometimes somebody tosses a ball to you and you just need to kick it back, to handle it back to where it came from. Not even being capable of doing that. Not because you are tired, but just being incapable of doing that. That's a very good, supposedly, definition of it. I think it makes sense, also, from that perspective of, and yeah, I don't even really know what's going to happen. I might kick it and things might go wrong. I might kick it too hard and I might even fucking break the ball. Nobody knows what's going to happen. I might have too many things go badly if I were to act. That's the same principle here, to a certain degree. We like too much to believe that it is right to just think out the word and nothing else. I don't truly think so. Action is more unnecessary than anything else. We that's one of the many issues with, for example, something that I remember the other day was kind of asked is is the clinic a good place in terms of psychology and whatnot? Is the clinic a good place? Is that something interesting? Yes and no. How many times do we need to mention the same thing until the other person gets what we are trying to say? Even more, if we are not even allowed to directly answer the questions about things, how do we get to properly discuss stuff? How do we get to solve a problem without actually getting to do that? Because taking ownership of the achievement makes it not a true achievement in the eyes of the person who did a change in a certain way. That's one of the fundamental issues with all of this. That, yeah, it's simple to say. And you know what? It's just as easy as forgetting, letting go. Is it? I don't think so. I love not doing things, sitting there and observing what might be. if I have to deal with being, I have to deal with failure. And in many ways, that's the reality. Being terrified of failure is the best excuse to not live a life. If out of nowhere everything that we have is not good enough because it might go bad, then we find ourselves certainly incapable of acting. And yeah, I would say not just to give it a better explanation, even not to make it reductionist, but there are even more things inside of that contained of not just the early childhood experiences, not just that, but throughout life, everybody experiences stuff that allows them to understand things. And out of nowhere, you find yourself having gone through enough periods in which any kind of action that you chose was the wrong one, then it becomes an unavoidable issue out of nowhere. Trying to choose means that you might also be dealing with the possibility of choosing wrongly. And it doesn't matter if it happened 10 years, 50, when you had a 5, or if it happened yesterday that you had to deal with all of that weight. If it happened in the last week, what matters is now I cannot really see it properly, and that's it. I cannot really act in a good way because I don't really know what is good, what can be good. I want to live a good life. Okay, I have no idea how to do that. If the actions that I take don't really seem to be that useful for me, how can I take any kind of good action then? How can I say that I will live a good life if all the things that I have already tried seem to have failed? Okay? It's just that. It's not a simple thing to answer because it needs too much observation into things. Am I really willing to see that? Yeah, okay, I can change. Tomorrow I can wake up and I can be different. Tomorrow life might be better if I just stop thinking so much. If I just stop believing that I need to be ready for life. The life somehow will present itself to me once I am ready for it and nothing else. Um, so I will say it 1,000 more times until it happens. No, I also need to be capable of recognizing everything else that happens. And it waits too much. Sometimes I am failing myself. That's what I mentioned before. Other people commit mistakes because of themselves. I do not commit a mistake because of a previous experience that is informing my current actions. I am not such a miserable creature. I have no way of dealing with that. So I that must not be it. As simple as that. That's not an explanation that I want or that I can use. It's just something else entirely, probably. Not having ownership about one's problems is complicated in that sense. Do I really understand why I don't get to have all the things that I say I want? Or do I just make up excuses that sound understandable enough about that? I have many wishes throughout the day. I have many interests throughout my life. I have all of them. It doesn't mean that they were not valid because I just did nothing to get them. It just means that I didn't try. In many cases, it's if we tried at least a quarter of the things that we thought about, and obviously just even talking about the nice things, what we supposedly consider good and whatnot, even if we tried just a quarter of all of that, what we will find out is, yeah, indeed, I am not so incapable. But trying is complicated. So it is better to continue in this direction of, yeah. You know, I, I will keep sitting here. Everything tomorrow might be better. Everything tomorrow might be in a better light, in a better mood, in a better sense. Everything might be different. Out of nowhere, but everything might be different. And because of that, I'm happy. And I don't know, man. It's the overwhelming positivity that we want to have doesn't truly help. Let's say it like that. I like good things, but what is good also needs to hurt a little bit. Not that the pain is the point, not that at all, but if you cannot realize that sometimes we don't possess the universal answers for the world, then yeah, we might not be so good. We we like to act a lot, and it's better to act like we are fine than to assume that we are wrong. It requires let's change. So yeah, I don't know. Anyway, that's all of that I guess so far. That's what I wanted to bring up first, I guess. Uh, Something useful would be to properly cut in the middle the I remember there was like a tag function or what was it? Timestamp, something like that. I I haven't used it in like 3 years at this point or something like that. 3 years? I haven't streamed in for 3 years. 1 year probably. Yeah, that was a good function. Anyway, anyway, next thing, I have thinking about dreams and not okay, not philosophical dreams, but dreams. The thing that happens when you go to sleep and whatnot. I had a conversation the other day that was sort of complicated because I don't really think about dreaming myself. It's not something that I actually look forward to. I guess I don't see really the point in worrying so much about it. I remember I heard something that clicked with me once. That was a very good dose of reality, I guess. It was something along the lines of we are even going crazy about lucid dreaming when there is no better thing than to be lucid living. You're still just dreaming when you are lucid dreaming. The dream comes to an end at some point, and all of them are never everlasting. There is no true gain from mastering lucid dreaming. It was useful because I remember I cannot really negate it, it's just another thing full of possibilities itself. So it's better to make it look like it's so necessary to have control over that, and even more, this whole idea of, oh wow, it seems to be such an unexplored field and an analyzed terrain of the consciousness and whatnot, that yeah, many things might lie within that. But at the same time, little bit of reality. Life itself also needs fucking attention. I don't know. Let's say it in this way. Not having the privilege of just focusing on sleep makes you just waste your life. If what you want to focus on is literally sleeping and nothing else. So yeah, it's not that useful to worry about it. But anyway, I wasn't going on about that. It's not just about me. I remember that I was talking about this discussion was something along the lines of, "Do you sleep? Do you go to sleep?" Yeah. What I said already. I just go to sleep. I don't really look forward to dreaming. I don't really want exactly to dream. Not because I do not want to dream, but really because I have no care about that at all. It's useful, yeah. So if it happens, I am happy. At the next day I can have that degree of unconscious happiness granted just because I knew that things went in the correct direction and I got to satisfy a necessity that should happen with as much continuity as it can. Sleeping is good, so if I can sleep and I can dream, I had a good time, I did something good. Even if certainly in many ways it's completely out of my control, I did something good. So it's fine, but if it doesn't happen, I cannot really change it or get angry about it. And I don't know. We're still in many ways very underdeveloped in all of that. And sadly, we should. I remember something along the lines of we need to talk about that a lot more. I keep seeing information about it, and I just cannot keep avoiding worrying about it. That I think to some degree, what I care about the most is not really dreams, but just the sleeping itself. In my own perspective, what I find the most interesting thing is not really dreaming, but rather sleeping, or the most necessary part of the whole process. I can give entire lectures if you want about sleeping, getting proper rest, resting more than anything else, but dreams? I don't know, man. You are trying to tell me something that, for example, I tried to hear, and I still don't like. Yeah, every single dream has an interpretation, has a meaning, and that's the previous word that I use is the correct one. Has an interpretation. We can all interpret stuff. I can tell you what I think, what you saw, and decided to tell me means. I am interpreting what you experienced, but I don't possess the universal truth. Not every single fucking dream means anything. The whole, for fuck's sake, the whole meme or sub-genre of memes that exist. Me when I dream, or literally that quote of every single dream has a meaning. My dreams when I go to sleep and the most fucking random image ever. That same thing happens here. Not really, not every dream is important. If you had a nice experience, that's it. You need to deeply analyze yourself. What matters, I guess, is okay, you had a dream, you woke up fucking crying. Yeah, certainly there is something to talk about. Or you had a dream, you wake up incredibly angry, incredibly, at the best, I guess, tired. Those things deserve to be analyzed, but everything else, you wake up happy, you wake up refreshed. I don't care, man. Do I really need to observe everything to that point? I don't truly know. It's just we make too much of a. That's something that I don't like. We don't understand the world in many ways, and we like to make up excuses for things. Oh yeah, you should focus on your dreams, and you should focus on how you're going to dream. What do you think about before you dream? How much control you have when you go to sleep, and the dreams that you have, and being aware of dreaming, and being a lucid dreamer, and blah blah blah. No, man, it doesn't matter. Truly, life is not that radically different. If out of nowhere, I don't know, I guess, meaning of, if you were to see every single symbol that exists in all of your dreams and be capable of understanding exactly which message they had behind them, will life be different or not? Probably not. For the most cases, no. Doesn't matter. But we will rather avoid having to do with all of that. That's how I perceive it and how I think it goes down most of the time. I don't know. I mean, that's also the wonderful thing of this. In reality, it's also a wonder, a beautiful thing to be capable of dreaming, even if it doesn't truly mean anything. It's nice enough to knowing that I had the possibility of going to bed. I slept, I dreamt about something, and it was nice enough. Yeah, I'm happy with that already. I I I got to feel happy just because of that. And that's enough, man. That's just enough. I don't know. I mean, okay, probably also. I guess, I don't know. I like to talk about loops. That's something good that I mentioned. Repetition and finding oneself trapped in things that you have already experienced before because you have not properly understood why it happens. Probably have already complained about dreams. Probably have already complained about these sort of things. Unavoidably, also to some degree, the more you try to pierce through a barrier, the more you get closer to doing it. At least in psychological terms. In oh wow, yeah, yeah. I can keep trying to solve my issues with the past. In this case, there is something. Talking out this stuff sadly makes you become aware about what you are saying, why you are saying it. So I don't know. Final tissues. Talk more. We need more fucking communication. People will have less issues if they talk. I don't need to talk with someone else. Just fucking speak, brother. Yeah, yeah. I cannot believe it. You talk so little. Why do you talk so little? Why? Why do you not want to be heard? I don't know, man. Doing what not want to be heard? Weird to be in places like this one, and that's enough for me. I do not need to make in the daily life that I get to experience in those short moments of enjoyment that I get to have with another person. I don't need to walk them down with everything that I think about. I don't need to force them to think out all of my issues. I have no necessity to do that. If I can instead come here and just fucking speak. And I have that's the reality. I don't have just here. I have thousands of spaces to do that around my day. I have millions of opportunities to just fucking mute the music and start speaking. Start, okay. I don't want to speak loudly because I don't want to look like I am fucking schizophrenic. Good, good enough point. You know what you can do? You can pay attention to what you are thinking. You can think actively instead of just living in that other side of, oh yeah, yeah. My thoughts happen to me somehow, and I just observe them. I guess, I don't know, man. It's not so complicated to be happy in that sense, but we still like many ways to overcomplicate things. I guess that's what I also was trying to talk about. In many ways, having the need to compromise yourself, compromise your reality with one explanation makes it so that if something else opposes what you say, you're going to be incredibly deeply hurt by what you saw. If I say that, yeah, speaking is necessary, I can say it comfortably because I can speak. I have the possibility of understanding why speaking feels good. I can sense it myself that I say something that feels nice to me. I have that satisfaction gained from my own subjectivity. Someone else, I have never even tried to think. I don't have the tendency to stop and look around. I don't do that. I don't have any need for that shit. And now you are going to come and tell me that I need to speak? You're fucking crazy, brother. What are you talking about? What point are you trying to make if you cannot grasp that my life goes completely against any of those things? If I have time to stop and think, I have also time to not fucking stop at all and continue doing all of the other responsibilities that I have. I don't have what you call free fucking time. I just have time in which I decided to do nothing. And yeah, that's I guess true. But I don't know. It's still, even then, compromises of more sorts need to happen everywhere else, and we're not really ready to talk about all of those things yet. Seeing how it's better to make a reality just work becomes a lot more complicated than just the topic of, oh yeah, having a good life, I guess. Or having a life that doesn't feel bad having, if that makes sense at all. I don't know. I think, okay, completely unrelated thing. Let me say it because later on I will say, oh well, yeah, I should have said it. Uh, I think in many cases I talk like a fucking lot, so I feel bad by never stopping. That's I have that much I have already said before that it's a very good reason as to why I also feel like it's a good point of departure. But in reality, I don't know. That's also what I'm trying to get at. It's the lack of honesty in many ways is hurtful. What I said before of not before today, at some point in life I said, yeah, streaming makes me feel nice. That's the truth. Getting to hear and talk about the stuff makes life itself a little bit better. Getting to mention what I was saying, getting to speak and hear what I am saying makes things click out of nowhere, realizing that I am a conscious being and dealing with my own consciousness instead of just clashing my consciousness against the world makes my existence less insufferable out of nowhere. So why not do it more? That's the issue. Being that honesty in general requires too much work, and accepting that we have our own necessities in many other ways makes it worse for what are the older traditions that we like to have. If I do not ever think about how I feel myself refreshed in any way after being here, even if unavoidably I end stream and I am fucking tired, it doesn't mean that I have no need to do it. Even more in that sense that I have a need for that. It's better if I say that it's just a possibility than if I were to propose that as a necessity. Why the fuck would I conceive things as necessary if I know how hard they are for me? Why would I expose myself to pain, to suffering in any way, if I can instead just say, yeah, it's a possibility? I don't know, man. Being, we have gotten that we are getting weaker. That's what I also think. Suddenly, I don't know. I look around and I like how this whole discussion didn't really get a proper conclusion. We have at least, well, yeah, yeah. Let me elaborate properly. I do not come from a great place of internet. I mostly found and start in all of this thanks to what is it? The Sigma stuff and whatnot that nowadays gets that sort of name. That's the beginning in trying to not fucking kill yourself, I guess, for most guys nowadays, sadly. So that's where it all begins. And yeah, that's the wonder of you hear it there, and it's not with a proper message. The idea of, oh, wow, yeah. we are getting weaker. Uh, I don't know. I think as human beings we are getting weaker, but that's just because we are unwilling to deal with suffering in general. Life is too much temptations that we accept having, and too many vices that we like to indulge in. And saying that they are those things feels bad because we know that they are bad themselves if we use the proper categories to call them. So we would rather say, ah, little misdeeds here and there, and tiny errors or happy mistakes or indulgences or whatever, because self-aware goes only so far before that's I guess you go over the deep and realize maybe I am not having a good life at all. Maybe the things that I have are complete garbage, and what I am living is not what I want to have at all. What I am doing, what I am having other people do for me is not really what I want. And accepting that is hard. I don't want to do that. I never wanted to do that. Why would I do it out of nowhere now? But I don't know. It's just, I guess. Let me start fixing shit. I guess that's the point. The why. The I like to say, oh yeah, it's impossible sometimes to explain why things happen. Not really. It's complicated because the conclusion needs to be the very same that I can find within myself without making it sound just like the garbage that I think myself sometimes. So that's the issue with saying things and having to give them conclusions. But I think it's just unavoidable because at least if I get to recognize when things are not so good, if I get to work on what I find that's not so entertaining, if I get to become better, I get to ensure that things might take a turn for the better themselves also. I can ensure that I can improve. That's the issue. I do not like certainty, but at the same time, I can assure many other things that could happen by doing what what is embraced in certainties of life. I can say that yeah, not only my life will be better, I can ensure myself that many other things might go in different better directions if I stop not just worrying myself and defeating myself, but also defeating anybody that has to deal with me. Being not such a negative human also allows other people to have the possibility of gathering any kind of interest before I literally self-defeat myself in front of them. That's one of the many wonders about working on things and why it's necessary, because things work out. That's why. Not that, oh wow, you wanna know why? Then you should do it and find out why it is so necessary. No, because life gets better, but it's a sort of too heavy of a promise because somehow we might not truly be capable of doing things. Methods are easy to explain. The theories is amazing. Can I apply myself in the practice to doing that? How do I know that the way in which I see the world is truly a way in which I am embracing randomness in a certain manner? How can I be aware of all of those things without worrying so much about results? And I don't know, it's just a necessity to do not worry that leads actions in that sense. At some point, that's the honesty that people lack out being. Am I truly requiring so much of an overdrive on being worried about what I know, what I look, what I am, what I want, what I don't fulfill, the roles that I play and that I don't in my life? Do I need it? I don't know, man. I don't think so. I don't. On a sort of obvious explanation, if I go to my bed, I close my eyes and I start being tormented by everything that I have to think about now because of the way that I chose to be, maybe it wasn't truly a good choice. Maybe I didn't really make a good show at being myself if I have 1,000 ghosts following me around. If every single, what is it? It probably isn't even that correct expression, but if every single one of my drawers has a dead body in it, maybe I didn't do a good job at understanding my past so that I can move forward towards my future, you know? But who knows? Also, I remember something that I wanted to say. I had been processing sayings. I have 1,000 fucking sayings. Sometimes I know that I overuse them. I am trying to tone it down. Something funny I found is not recently. I know I say such is life a fucking lot, or even if I don't say it here that much, I that's like a common thing that I say. It can happen. That's another iteration of the same idea, and none of that. So far, I have gotten only the degree of awareness of. It also is the very same expression, or in the very same lines of c'est la vie, that French expression. Uh, I think it's interesting. Probably, yeah, I don't know. I cannot really try to give a proper explanation. It's just something related to what I have been talking about for literally this whole stream. Accepting, embracing the uncertainty of life. Probably to some degree, the conscious struggle to deal with that, or the unconscious struggle to embrace how everything in that level works and how even the most absurd things can happen somehow. But yeah, I don't know. It's just complicated. I mean, for example, something one science probably unrelated, probably not. I remember because I say, yeah, it's just to try and deal with the world. Something that I remember was also dealing, as in not exactly coping, but also coping as in the proper definition of coping. And coping as something that I remember having heard recently in a conversation. Something funny that happened was uh, we were talking with somebody and they said something along the lines of, yeah, I got sick. And I said at that point, yeah, but it doesn't happen without a reason. You know why you got sick. I like how we have sort of failed so much in understand the individualities of every single one of us. I say that completely forgetting that they might not get the same interpretation as me. And it was sort of beautiful to see how incredibly sad they got because I said that out of nowhere. It was like I was blaming them. It's very good to be insensitive towards other people because we had to hurt them without realizing that yeah we could have avoided doing something. Do not have issues with other people. Choosing our own words is always a possibility, and sometimes it's complicated to do that. And sadly, in this case, it happens. We say stuff like that, and we forget that yeah, everything can be traceable to its causes. Everything has a sort of explanation. Yeah, but it doesn't truly just mean that everything has an explanation as it does itself. The words do not mean what the words are. The words also have all the other explanations that we can give them ourselves. I don't need to read it as, oh yeah, the word is just combination of of previous events in a chain of successes, I think it is. In a chain of events, more easily said. In a chain of events, and all of thought unavoidably leads to other consequences down the line. Yes and no. Unavoidably, also something funny that happens is I do not need to read. Everything has an explanation as that. I can also read it as maybe, wonderfully enough, everything can be explained. If I blame myself for it, everything can be explained. If I become a martyr of my own existence, that's the issue with these things. How we can forget that many times we have visions of the same thing with not the same idea. That's something that I certainly do not like. Not because I do not like to be correct, despite that also being true, but also because sometimes we fucking forget. And it's just reality is. I could probably remember. It would have been better to at the very least try to remember such things before saying anything. Uh, what is it? Hurting sensibilities when you can avoid it hurts more because you know that you could have done something better, and dealing with that regret is annoying. But at the same time, it doesn't mean that it deserves to be an ignored thing. Certainly, talking is not so impossible. We like to make it look like, oh yeah, I cannot say anything good to this other person. I cannot give them proper words of encouragement or whatever. I don't have that gift of life. I am cursed by this world, suffer and whatever. Not really. Truly, not really. But that's also something different but related. Giving up is a lot easier than trying. The fear of failure weighs more than the results of not having even tried. In many cases. Well, also, obviously, on the other hand, the weight of having not even tried, I guess probably down the line accumulates more or gains more weight. Something along those lines, also. Anyway, I don't know. Uh, I am. I feel like a fucking. I don't know. I can't say. I let me preface it with this. I I know that the English language has a lot of expressions that I cannot use because they do not mean what I believe they mean. The context of the English language makes it more complicated for me to say stuff like what I wanted to say. But anyways, we will try. At this point, I always felt like a fucking monkey, but at this point, I feel like I'm literally just a monkey scratching like a fucking addict the last bits of coconut peel from the coconut. So yeah, I don't know. I don't think I have any more to say. Anything else to add today? I think I'm done. Also, excuse probably, but because I'm getting tired, so I do not want to start sounding like I am saying gibberish. Not really. I literally just need to speak a little bit lower, and that's it. It can be once again understandable. Wow. But whatever. What a what a crazy life, I guess. Anyways, it was almost 2 hours, so we did it. We I don't know. Compared to when I was thinking to say the same thing before, today it was a little bit longer. So that's good enough for me. Anyways, question is right. Answer is perhaps, but where? And the answer to that, I don't fucking know. Having to choose is so complicated. I mean, not complicated. you, you choose instantly. That's something funny. I hadn't think about it, and I said I wanted to finish, but also that's a sort of explanation that I wanted to say. Choosing is not complicated. Dealing with everything else that comes with your choice is the complicated process. In many ways, I say I want something, I know instantly, or I say that I do not know what I want. I know what the fuck I want. Committing to it is complicated. Having even more to give explanations of things is the hard part. Assuming understanding the sensibilities of other people makes it hard when you understand that sometimes what you want is not truly the quote unquote correct thing, or that what you might want might not be capable of being explained through this very filter of, oh yeah, what is the correct thing to desire, and whatever. Anyway, and of that is also just fucking gibberish for me to overextend writing, so shut the fuck up, brother. Ah, completely schizophrenic, probably. Perhaps. I don't know. Uh, there are so many people, brother. I at least I cannot complain about it in that sense. Infinity of choices to be happy. But damn, brother, how what a wonderful thing, I guess, to know that uh, entertainment is endless. That's like I don't know. At least we have that. If nothing else, we have that. So we did something good. We don't have to deal with the. I don't know. Is it good? We don't have to deal with ourselves. So at least we have that satisfaction. But what I mentioned before, we are not dealing with our own existence. We are leaving it in the hands. You know what? We are leaving it in the. So I mean that's a really controversial opinion, but controversial opinion. Living life in the hands of someone else is sort of meaningless. I mean, I should be dealing with my own life, but I would rather keep being entertained. I guess I don't know. Don't pay any attention to me. I'm just making up fucking excuses to avoid clicking a fucking button. I don't know. You know what? I can say it's a complicated name to spell, or I can also just shut the fuck up and try to write it down. Maybe it isn't that hard. Let me write it down. Is it written like that? It it wasn't valid, and it's so long. You know what? I had someone in mind, but I found a good excuse, so I can't write the username. Sorry. Ah, what a wonderful thing. The many loops that we are capable of going through to not do things that we say we wanna do. The many excuses that we can invent. Anyway, completely anyway. Yeah, make it? Yeah. This time I wrote it correctly. I was going to say, thanks for being here. How was the day? Good evening, good night. I have nothing else to add now, for real. Now, for real, I fucking clicked the red button. So, anyway, tomorrow we will be here. Probably. I have been feeling like reading the Mahabharata for like, I don't know, 2 weeks. I have been also trying my best to avoid that. We shouldn't be so fucking basic. I said it before. Something wonderful about reading other stuff is that I can dispose of the responsibility of my own words because they are not mine. I am interpreting other things. So, if I am wrong, I might not be wrong myself. The wrong thing might be what I am trying to interpret. Wow, deep. No, not really. But also, I have my own interest of reading that fucking book. So, perhaps we will read. Perhaps not tomorrow. Whatever. That's not important. We are reading somewhere else. Somebody playing something. What? I don't even remember. Go watch and find out. Good luck. Good luck in life. You will need it. Ah, what a what a stream, brother. Have you ever done a sober stream, brother?